Nvidia. Seems like it's on everyone's mind these days, right? And for good reason with this AI explosion happening. And a lot of you have asked us, hey, is this the real deal? Is Nvidia a smart bet or is it a risk?
So that's exactly what we're diving into today. Nvidia, their future, the good, the bad, all of it.
And believe me, even with a company killing it like Nvidia, there are always challenges.
For sure. I mean, just look at their new Blackwell GPUs.
Yeah.
Crazy demand. These things are going for what, like $30,000 to $40,000 each? Something insane like that.
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark.
And everyone and their mother, or at least Microsoft and Meta, are trying to get their hands on them.
Makes sense though, right? These GPUs, they're built for those massive data centers, the kind you need for serious AI work. Companies see this as the future, and they see Nvidia as the key. We're talking billions in potential revenue for Nvidia, just from Blackwell.
Billions. Just let that sink in for a second.
Yeah.
No wonder their CEO called the demand insane. But the question is, can they actually keep up with that?
Well, they're definitely trying, ramping up production as fast as humanly possible. But I think the bigger question is, can this insane growth last? Nvidia, they're pretty tied to the overall AI market, right? If that slows down, Nvidia slows down.
True. But for now, their stock is doing pretty well, right? And it's not just everyday investors. We're talking big players, hedge funds going all in.
Yeah, something like 179 different hedge funds have bought into Nvidia.
179. That's a lot of trust in one company.
It is, but here's the thing, and this is where it gets interesting. Some of those same hedge funds, the ones who piled in, have started selling off some of their Nvidia stock.
Wait, seriously, why would they do that? Do they know something we don't?
Well, hedge funds, they have a knack for spotting trends before anyone else. It's possible they're anticipating a slowdown, seeing warning signs we haven't even thought of yet.
Okay, now you've got me nervous. What kind of warning signs are we talking about?
One thing is Nvidia's dependence on those big tech companies. You know, the Microsofts, the Metas, the Googles of the world. And guess what? Those same companies, they're starting to think about making their own AI chips.
So they'd become competition, not just customers.
Exactly. If companies like Microsoft, Meta, Alphabet, Amazon, even Tesla, if they rely less on Nvidia, that's a big chunk of their business potentially gone.
So even though Nvidia's on top of the world right now, it's not all sunshine and roses.
Not exactly. Competition is fierce, and it's coming from all sides, even from their own customers. And then, well, there's another little thing to consider.
Let me guess, China.
Bingo! The US-China trade war, it's adding a whole other layer of complication to this.
Yeah, China's pushing hard for their companies to use GPUs made in China. Does that mean trouble for Nvidia's bottom line?
It could. China, they're a huge market for AI. If Nvidia can't sell there or has to compete with cheaper options, it'll definitely impact their profits.
So what you're saying is Nvidia could be hit from both sides. Competition here at home, trade wars abroad. That's a lot to think about.
It really is, and it kind of shows how important it is to look at the whole picture, you know, especially with something as fast-moving as AI.
Yeah, it's easy to get swept up in the hype. Nvidia stock is soaring, everyone wants their products. You think it'll just go on forever.
And maybe it will, who knows? But there's always a chance we're looking at another bubble, like the dot-com boom back in the day. Lots of companies seemed unstoppable then, but...
Right, a lot of them crashed and burned. So how do we tell the difference? How do we know if a company is in it for the long haul or just riding a trend?
One big thing to look at is their competitive advantage. What makes them special? What do they do that others can't?
Well, with Nvidia, they're known for having like the best of the best products. And they were one of the first in the AI hardware game.
True, that's definitely a point in their favor. And their CUDA software, it's become the go-to for pretty much all AI stuff. But the question is, can they hold on to that lead? With new competition popping up and technology changing so fast?
Right, the competition. We talked about those big companies, Nvidia's customers, maybe making their own chips. But how serious is that really?
It's not something to ignore, that's for sure. Think about it. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they've got money to burn and every reason to do it themselves. Why depend on Nvidia forever if they can save a buck and get ahead?
So Nvidia has to stay one step ahead, keep innovating if they want to stay on top.
Exactly. No resting on their laurels. The AI world, it's always changing. They've got to change with it.
We've talked a lot about the potential downsides for Nvidia. But there's got to be an upside too, right? I mean, the need for AI chips, it's only going up from here.
Oh, absolutely. We're still in the early days of AI, really. The possibilities are endless, which means the demand for the hardware, for what NVIDIA makes, That's only going to keep growing.
So even if there are bumps in the road, Nvidia's in a pretty good position to benefit from all this growth.
For sure, they are. But for investors, it comes down to whether the potential profits outweigh the risks. And that's not always an easy call.
No, not at all. There's a lot of uncertainty with Nvidia, but there's also the potential for huge returns. High risk, high reward, right?
Right. And at the end of the day, it's up to each person to decide how much risk they're willing to take.
So let's recap for a second. We've covered a lot. We talked about the demand for Nvidia's products, the competition, China, the potential for growth, the potential for things to go sideways. It's a lot to process.
Yeah, it is. And our goal here has been to give you all the info, all the angles, so you can make an informed decision.
We've looked at Nvidia's strengths, their weaknesses, what's working for them, what they're up against.
Hopefully, knowing all this, you can make a good decision about whether to buy or not.
All right, so for our listener who wanted this Nvidia deep dive, what are the key takeaways here? What do they really need to remember if they're thinking about investing?
Well, I think the big thing is Nvidia's on a roll right now, no doubt about it. This AI boom, it's been great for them. And those Blackwell GPUs, smart move, they're going to make a killing on those.
But, and it's a big but, can they stay on top? This industry, it moves fast. Can Nvidia keep up?
That's the million-dollar question. Like we were saying, their own customers, the big guys, they're thinking about making their own chips. If they can pull that off, it changes everything for Nvidia.
And then there's China. Always China. That trade war adds a whole other level of uncertainty.
Yep. Lose access to that market or have to compete with cheaper Chinese chips, that's going to hurt their bottom line for sure.
So we're talking about a company with huge potential, but also facing some serious threats.
Exactly. It's all about risk, right? If you believe Nvidia can handle these challenges, if you believe they'll stay ahead of the game, then yeah, maybe it's a good investment. But if you're not so sure, maybe wait and see.
Because the payoff could be huge if they succeed.
No question, AI is the future. Everyone knows that. And Nvidia is in the perfect spot to benefit.
So for our listener, it comes down to this. Do you believe in Nvidia? Do you think they can innovate, adapt, and overcome? If so, and if you can handle some risk, maybe buying Nvidia is the way to go. But if you're more cautious, well, there's no harm in watching from the sidelines for a while. This whole AI thing is fascinating and is changing the world in ways we can't even imagine yet. And who knows what role Nvidia will ultimately play in that future. That's something we'll all have to wait and see, I guess. But that's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.